Hello students, now we are going to discuss about the caveat emptor. So here, what this caveat emptor says, what this doctrine of caveat emptor says means, let the buyer be aware. What this caveat emptor says, let the buyer be aware. Why this says let the buyer be aware means, in this now today's trade, many of the seller will not reveal the mistakes, will not reveal the damages. They will be covering the damages. They will be covering the loopholes of the product. So in these cases, if the buyer buys the product means the buyer will be getting a loss there. So not to happen that, this says that it is the buyer responsibility to know about the product, not the seller here. Why? Because the seller intention will always be to increase their sale, not to give a perfect product to the customers. Their first motto will be this one, to increase their sales. Some they may have this intention also to give the quality product to the customer, but that point will be somewhere in 6th or 7th point. But the first point will be there only to increase their sale here. So in this aspect, we cannot blame a seller about our loss here. This says that the buyer has to be responsible to buy a quality product by being aware about the product. But in this world, in this today competitive or in this technological world, no, there is less chances for a customer to know about a complete information regarding one product. Why? Because nobody is that patient or nobody is that much free to learn about the product and to buy it. So in now, like for example, if you take an online trading means, many of you will buy the product by seeing the rating or by seeing the feedback. Nobody is going to there is less chance, only the 10% or 5% people will be buying the product by knowing it. So in that element, if you take that element means, this element, the element which they are saying, let the buyer be aware, this element will not be applicable. ఎందుకంటే అమ్మా ఇక్కడ వీళ్ళు ఏం చెప్తున్నారు, బయ్యర్ అనే పర్సన్ ఒక ప్రోడక్ట్ యొక్క కంప్లీట్ నాలెడ్జ్ ఉండాలని చెప్తున్నారు. కానీ ఇప్పుడున్న ఫాస్ట్ జనరేషన్ కానీ ఇప్పుడున్న మన బిజీ షెడ్యూల్లో కానీ ఎవరికి అంత ఫ్రీ టైం లేదు. ఒక ప్రోడక్ట్ని కంప్లీట్గా అనాలిసిస్ చేసుకొని ఒక ప్రోడక్ట్ని కొనుక్కుందామన్న ఫ్రీ టైం కానీ అంత పేషెన్స్ కానీ ఎవరికి లేదు. సో అలాంటి టైంలో ఒక మనిషిని పట్టుకొని మీరు ఒకరి ప్రోడక్ట్ మీద కంప్లీట్ అవేర్నెస్ ఉండాలి, మీరు అలర్ట్గా ఉండాలని చెప్పడానికి వీలు లేదు. So there are some exemption for this caveat emptor where we cannot apply this statement in some situation. What are those situations? Let's discuss now. Those are called exemption of caveat emptor. What are those exemptions? What are those exemptions? In first reasons, when the buyer depends upon or relies on seller skill and knowledge. here the first exemption means when the buyer depends or relates on the skill and knowledge of the seller here. See, for example, if I give an example, suppose one one girl have come to a city from village background. She doesn't know anything about the advanced cosmetics which are available in the market. Where she has an intention to use that cosmetic. She went into the cosmetic shop and she was trying to know about the product by the seller. Here, background, what is there? Background, she doesn't know anything about that product, but she has the thought of knowing the product from the words of the seller. Here, she's trusting a seller. By the trust only, she's taking here. If suppose the seller is misrepresenting a false statement that though the cosmetic is not suitable for her skin, though the cosmetic is not advantageous for her, but she has to sell that product. So with that intention, if she keep a false statement and if she make a buyer to buy that product, means we cannot say that the buyer has to be aware. Why? Because as she was from the village background or she was not known about this product, we cannot say that she has to be aware of the good here. She has to be aware of the product here. So that's why in that cases this statement is not applicable. Let the buyer be aware statement is not applicable when the buyer is depending on the judgment of the seller. సో మనకి ఆల్రెడీ మన మైండ్లో ఒక థాట్ ఉన్నాకమ్మా ఈ మనం అవేర్నెస్ పెట్టుకోవాలి, ఒక ప్రోడక్ట్ మీద ఒక నాలెడ్జ్ ఉండాలి అనే స్టేట్మెంట్ని మనం పాస్ చేయడానికి వీల్లేదు. ఎందుకంటే ఆల్రెడీ మనం ఒక డిసైడ్ అయ్యే వెళ్ళిపోయాం, వాళ్ళు ఏం చెప్తారో దాన్ని బట్టి ప్రోడక్ట్ తీసుకుందామని. సో అలాంటి టైంలో ఇలాంటి స్టేట్మెంట్ అనేది మనం అప్లై చేయలేము ఎప్పుడైతే ఒక బయ్యర్ సెల్లర్ మీద డిపెండ్ అయి వెళ్తారో. సో దిస్ ఇస్ ద ఫస్ట్ ఎగ్జామ్షన్. The second exemption is merchantable quality of the good. Merchantable quality of the good in quality product. So in this quality of a product, quality means not somebody, they buy a product by seeing the brand of that product or by seeing the trademark of the product or by seeing the reputation of the product or by seeing the demand of the product. If we go like that means, and in this situation, if the seller is going to misrepresent the quality of a product, at that time also we cannot say that let the buyer be aware. We cannot say that the buyer has to be aware of the product. Why? Because as he was putting a faith on the quality of a product by seeing his brand. ఇప్పుడు సపోజ్ ఒక బ్రాండ్ చూసాకనే మనము క్వాలిటీ ఈ ప్రోడక్ట్ ఈ బ్రాండ్ అంటే క్వాలిటీ ప్రోడక్ట్ అని మనం నమ్ముతాం. సో అలాంటి మోటో వెళ్ళినప్పుడు అక్కడ మనకి ఫ్రాడ్ కానీ మిస్రిప్రజెంట్ కానీ జరుగుతుందని మనం ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్స్ పెట్టుకోం. అలాంటి థాట్ రానప్పుడు డెఫినెట్గా మనం ఆ ప్రోడక్ట్ని ఉంటాం. అలాంటి టైంలో ఇఫ్ సంథింగ్ హ్యాపెన్ బై మిస్రిప్రజెంటింగ్ ఆర్ సంథింగ్ unfortunately or fortunately if something happen means if the buyer get losses means we cannot say in that situation we cannot say that the buyer has to be alert, the buyer has to have a awareness regarding the product. So this is also second exemption to the caveat under where we cannot keep the statement that the buyer has to be aware. The third statement is consent by the fraud. The third one is consent by fraud. Where where the seller is intention is only to create the fraud, at that time also there is no chance to escape the buyer. There is no chance for the buyer to escape from them. Why? Because as the seller his intention is only to do the fraud means definitely he is going to keep many points, many tricks, many coverage to cover the loopholes. He is not simply doing a fraud. He will definitely prepare a plan to cover the loopholes. He will definitely will have a trick to do the fraud. In that aspect, as he wasn't having enough knowledge to do the fraud, and if we go with a little knowledge, definitely we will be stuck up in his hand. There is no chance for buyer to come out of it. Why? Because as we are having a little knowledge and in front of a like heavy knowledge person, we may not stand here. So definitely we are going to believe his word. Why? Because he will definitely have the skill and knowledge to make the people believe about his product. Definitely we will become a fool by believing those frauds. And here in this situation also, we cannot say that the buyer has to be aware of the product, be aware of the frauds here. So this is the third exception. And the last exception is the usage of the trade. The last exemption is the usage of the trade. See, for example, if I go to one shop and if I ask the seller to give me a product that which I can use on the board, did I am mentioning the chalk piece or a marker? He will be giving either the marker or chalk piece. But I need, the intention will be disclosed in me only. But I need the chalk piece only to write on the board. Unless if I disclose the information, the seller may not know and he will be giving whatever will be there. And that won't be an advantage for me here. So here, in this case, if something happened like this means, we cannot put the statement that let the buyer be aware. Why? Because the buyer has to express the intention of buying the product. The reason behind buying this product, the buyer has to explain. Before, and if he is not explaining and if he want the exact product means it is not going to happen. So that's why the buyer has to explain clearly about the product, why he need with that product, what he is going to do, what is the purpose of buying. If he clearly explain means the seller may give. సో ఇక్కడ మనకి ఒక బయర్ రీజన్ చెప్పకుండా మనం సెల్లర్ నుంచి ఎగ్జాక్ట్ ప్రోడక్ట్ రాకుండా తన్ని బ్లేమ్ చేయడానికి వీలు లేదు. So here this is the last exemption of the caveat emptor. We have a 4 exemption. That the first one is when the buyer depends or relies on the skill and knowledge of the seller, and next one is the merchantable quality of the good, and third one is consent by the fraud, and fourth one is usage of the trade. These are the exemption of the caveat emptor. Thank you.